Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Minden City Council regular session on Monday, March the 7th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. We have our opening prayer by Councilwoman Pam Bloxham, and we have our pledge by Councilman Wayne Edwards.
O Prince of Peace, we humbly ask your protection for all of the people of Ukraine. Give them unflinching courage to defend their homeland with honor, dignity, and devotion. We ask your protection for those who are imperiled by injustice and evil. Be their rock, their shield, their stronghold, and let them draw their strength from you. And our Heavenly Father, during this time of Lent, make us ever mindful that Jesus took our sins to the cross and died for us. We offer this prayer tonight, for you are God forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like a motion to amend the agenda to add to award the bid for 07-2022 one-ton crew cab chassis, a 4x4 flatbed pickup truck.
And so moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Wayne Edwards, seconded by Councilman Michael Roy. Is there any discussion? There being no discussion, cast your vote, please. Motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to our agenda items. Do we have any comments from the audience on any of the agenda items tonight? Yes, ma'am. Would you come up and state your name, your address? Please, ma'am. And we have 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. Thank you for letting me come. My name is Emily Hunt. My address is 501 Pennsylvania Avenue. I have really just one question, and it pertains to the changes proposing to remove Section 2.12 and add ordinance, I believe it's 1126, regarding the home occupation license. My question is this. The changes pertain, there are changes that pertain to adding lodging house, also known as bed and breakfast, as an acceptable home occupation, and I know that we discussed this in the workshop last time. My question is this, and I'm not sure if it would be directed at the building official or maybe the attorney. Will we, once we've made this change, what will be the process of approving a lodging house or bed and breakfast? Will it go through the process of meeting the approval of the Planning Commission and then the City Council, or will it just be a rubber stamp approval because it will be an acceptable home occupation?
Can I take that?
Yes, sir. If you will, and also tell them your name and your title here at the city.
Okay, if we pass it as...
Your name and title.
Brent Cooley, the building official, I'm sorry. If it's passed as written, a bed and breakfast with no more than 2 bedrooms will be able to come through my office just like getting any other home occupation license. I will be able to approve it just like home offices or anything else. If they're requesting more than 2 bedrooms, then it would have to go somewhere else to get approved.
Where else would it go?
Anytime you're asking for a variance to the regulations, it starts at the Planning Commission.
Okay, so when they apply, they're going to say whether they have 2 bedrooms or more.
That will be part of the questionnaire, yes.
And if it's more than 2 bedrooms?
More than 2 bedrooms. The change in this says that only lodging houses with 2 bedrooms or less.
Okay, and is that 2 total bedrooms in the house or just 2 bedrooms being offered for lodging?
2 bedrooms, period.
Okay.
Doesn't discern in the house or if it's a cottage behind the house or a garage apartment or whatever. It says 2 bedrooms, so if it's 1 bedroom in the house and 1 over the garage, that all counts together. That's the way it will be enforced.
Okay, so every lodging house application that has 2 bedrooms or more, you will refer them to a variance that will go through?
More than 2 bedrooms.
More than 2 bedrooms?
Then they can't get that as a home occupation license. If they want to do something like that, it would have to be granted as a special exception through a variance through the planning commission.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Just to
Thank you, ma'am.
clarify, that's 2 bedrooms for rent.
Right, individually. 2 bedrooms for rent individually in a home where that's under the lodging house description. yes.
Gotcha. So it's not just 2 bedrooms total with one person living in one bedroom and renting out the other. It's just 2 bedrooms that are available for rent within the home.
Yes.
That's, your question kind of seemed like that's what you were asking, but kind of got lost in the discussion, so I'm gonna clarify that.
Okay.
Ms. Hunt, will you come up and give us your name? I'm sorry, different Ms. Hunt. Would you come up and give us your name and address, please?
Catherine Hunt, I live at 119 North Tanglewood. So my question for you, Mr. Cooley, so someone's going to come to you for a bed and breakfast. Is this the one where they're going to be able to put the 3x3 sign in their yard? Or whatever, what did y'all decide? I don't know.
Yes, but that was reduced to 2 foot by 3.
Oh, excuse me, 2 foot by 3 foot. So if my neighbor, for instance, decides he wants to rent out or she wants to rent out 2 bedrooms in their room, they can put a sign out in their front yard anywhere in the city, and then they just come to you and you say, it's okay, you can do 2 bedrooms.
Come and get a home occupational business license for a lodging house up to 2 bedrooms, rented out individually in excess to their, but they have to live there.
They have
be
to
their
live there.
permanent resident.
Okay, how would you monitor that? Like, how would you know if I rented out 2 bedrooms or I rented out 4 or 5 bedrooms?
If it becomes a problem with too much traffic there, they will get reported and then it will get investigated.
And they would report that to who? So, because we've had that issue before, is it to the police
Anybody with
chief
the city
or?
that they want to. They can go to their council person, they can come to my office, they can go to the mayor's office, they can go to the police chief's office. Anywhere that it starts, it will be followed up.
So
What-
there's a possibility that we could have 2x3 signs with bed and breakfast all over the city?
Everywhere in
Yes.
town, if everybody wanted to build one.
Okay,
Ms. Hunt, the thing about it is, like you live in District D, what they would do if people like next door to you had that and there became a lot of traffic and noise and stuff like that, you'd call your city councilman, he would write it up, it'd come through my office, and then it would go down to Mr. Cooley to investigate.
what's the police, what is,
Well, you could call that night and complain, but after your complaint, I would highly recommend the next day that you call your city councilwoman or man and still report it to make sure we have documentation of it, that there has been some problems.
okay, but I mean, I don't know that people are gonna, like, if I go and I stay at a bed and breakfast, I'm not making a whole bunch of noise and stuff when I'm there. I just go and then we go and do whatever. I don't know how anybody's gonna be able to monitor that, but that's just my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir, if you'll come up and state your name and your address, please.
My name is Joshua Hunt, and my address is 501 Pennsylvania. I just have a comment for the same issue, and I looked in, I don't know, at least 15 different cities based on how popular bed and breakfasts were in those cities, and in none of the ones that I could find, they adjusted the home occupation. So I was just going to tell you a few that I did find, and again, this is how, for example, Natchitoches allows bed and breakfast exceptions for residential districts in their zoning ordinances. It's an exception, still has to go through the planning commission and the city council. They also have a separate bed and breakfast definition. It's not lodging house or boarding house. And they do, again, do not include a bed and breakfast in their occupational license because it causes issues, extra traffic, et cetera. St. Francisville allows bed and breakfast exceptions for residential districts based on zoning ordinances. You have to go through the zoning commission approval. They also have a separate bed and breakfast definition, not a lodging house or boarding house. They do not include it in their occupational license either. They have very specific language about what a bed and breakfast is. Lafayette allows bed and breakfast exceptions to their residential district but you have to go through the zoning commission for approval. They require, Lafayette's a little different, but they require it to actually have a historic significance. I didn't find a separate definition, but their ordinances was well-defined what falls into bed and breakfast. I think what I'm trying to get at is, in my opinion, it's not clear what issues might come up with it because as far as I can tell, I haven't seen it done. I don't understand the process. I understand Mr. Cooley and the mayor came up with it. It seems like, he said in the workshop that you went over it with him.
Mr. Cooley rewrote the ordinance.
Yeah. The point is, if you would go off of some other cities, you could call those cities and say, hey, this looks good for our city. Did it cause any issues? And then you could address those issues before they happen. It's odd that the way you're doing it, because again, I've not seen it anywhere else in the state. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, but it's not common. And I looked at cities that have very popular bed and breakfasts, and the way that they did it protects the residents in every single one. It just seems like that's what you would do first. Look at all the other cities that do it well and try to emulate it. And that's my suggestion for the council, to look at that possible way to do it as opposed to the way that it's currently done, because it's so odd. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cooley, would you expand on that, please, and tell him where you found the ordinance that you're wanting to?
Well, the definitions follow the guidelines in the state. Most of those ordinances referred to in the other cities were written long ago, long before those definitions were established. Bed and breakfast is a very large, covers a whole gamut of different things. It can be commercial buildings or as you understand, bed and breakfast in a residential setting. Yeah, our ordinances, all of our ordinances look different from other cities' ordinances. And this just seemed to be the easiest and the best place to put the small traditional bed and breakfast. If we wanted to allow them and limit them to a small, I mean, this isn't for me, this isn't my idea. We can, whatever the city council wants to do, I'm here to do what you guys want to do. But this will, number one, the definitions will clear up what can be in a residential district and what cannot.
I don't think that's so much of, it is a concern, but being able to have a bed and breakfast and it not go before the planning commission or the council is the main issue. Whether it's 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, being able to have a bed and breakfast and it not go before the planning commission and the council is the.
If y'all want every bed and breakfast, regardless of how big it is, to go before the commission, I'm 100% behind that if that's what you want to do.
And then it's the fact that it's being listed under home occupations. That's the issue. Okay.
Okay.
Whatever y'all want to do.
What we'll do is when we get down to that, Ms. Walker, Councilwoman Walker, we'll discuss it during then, and then we can vote. Is there anybody else from the audience with any comments about anything on the agenda tonight? Okay, there being none, we'll move forward. Item A is to adopt the minutes of the City Council regular session held on February 7th, 2022. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion made by Councilman Wayne Edwards.
Second.
I have a second made by Councilman Michael Roy. Do we have any discussion from the council on that? There being no discussion, if you'll cast your vote, please. Motion passes. Item B, if you flip to tab B, condemned properties. Do I have a motion?
I move to authorize the mayor to issue an order declaring the property condemned and further order the demolition of any structure located on the property and cleaning up the lot within 120 days of this date.
We have a motion made by Councilman Wayne Edwards. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Vincent Bradford. Is there any discussions on that? There being no discussion, cast your vote, please. Motion passes unanimously. Item D, if you flip to tab D. I'm sorry, C, I was looking at D. C, adopt ordinance number 1126, an ordinance to amend and reenact Appendix A zoning, Article 2, general provisions, Section 2.12, home occupations permitted, and Article 25, definitions of Code of Ordinances, City of Minden. Do I have a motion? Fails for lack of a motion. Flip to tab D on your agenda. Do I have a motion to add Juneteenth to the city annual paid holiday schedule?
I move to add the national observed holiday of Juneteenth, celebrated on June 19th to the city annual paid holiday schedule beginning in 2022.
Motion is made by Councilman Vincent Bradford,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Wayne Edwards. Do we have any discussion? There being no discussion,
I'd just
cast...
like to-
Yes, sir.
Let them know that if the holiday falls on a Saturday, it'll be celebrated on that Friday. And if the 19th falls on a Sunday, it'll be celebrated on the 20th, that Monday.
Yes, sir. Thank you for
I think we
clarifying
should-
that.
I mean, we should add that.
You want to add that?
Because I don't think we have another holiday like that, do we?
Okay. Well,
It's typical.
Well, I mean Christmas or something.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We'll add that. Okay, is there any other discussion or comments before we cast our vote? Okay, if you'll cast your vote, please.
Hold on.
Got you. Motion passes unanimously. Item E is to adopt a resolution declaring certain Minden items property surplus and fixing the terms of the sale. If you'll flip right behind that page, the list is quite lengthy. Do we have a motion on that?
So move.
The motion is made by Councilman Michael Roy,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Wayne Edwards. Is there any discussions or questions on this list?
Yeah, I don't see in here, when we discussed in the workshop about it being, this is about the scrap metal, taking the entire, it's in entirety.
It's under B. If you look towards the middle of the page, it's under B. It says at the very end, $5 per 100 pounds in its entirety.
You see that? Council?
Okay, I see it. I see it now.
It's at the bottom too, so.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Are there any other questions or concerns from the council members? There being none, cast your vote, please. Passes unanimously. Item F, if you look at tab F, to adopt a resolution to amend the city budget for 2021-2022 budget. And if you'll look on the second page behind that, it explains that as well. Do we have a motion?
I move to adopt a resolution to amend the City of Minden 2021-22 budget as presented.
Motion has been made by Councilman Wayne Edwards,
Second.
seconded by Councilwoman Tarika Walker Williams. Are there any questions or concerns from the council? There being none, if you'd cast your vote, please. Scared me for a minute. Motion passes unanimously. If you look at item G, tab G, authority to advertise for bids for the 2021-2022 street improvement projects. Do I have a motion on that, please?
So move.
Go ahead, Ms. Walker.
That's fine. I'll second.
Somebody step back up.
Go ahead. She can make it.
I move to authorize the city clerk to advertise for bids for the 21-22 street improvements project.
Motion has been made by Councilwoman Tarika Walker Williams. Seconded by Councilman Michael Roy. Are there any questions or concerns? There being none, would you cast your vote, please? Motion passes unanimously. If you'll turn to tab H on your agenda, it's the authority to advertise for bids for the Shreveport Road Water Improvement Project. Do I have a motion?
I move to authorize the city clerk to advertise for bids for the Shreveport Road Water Improvement Project as presented.
Motion has been made by Councilman Vincent Bradford,
Second.
seconded by Councilwoman Tarika Walker Williams. Do we have any discussions or questions from the council? There being none, cast your vote, please. Motion passes unanimously. Turn to tab I in your book. Authority to advertise for bids for the Robertson Lift Station project. Do I have a motion?
I move to authorize the city clerk to advertise for bids for the Robertson Drive Lift Station project as presented.
Motion made by Councilman Wayne Edwards,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Vincent Bradford. Do we have any discussions or comments from the council? There being none, cast your vote, please. Motion passes unanimously. If you'll flip to tab J in your book, it's authority to advertise for bids to repair and repaint the 500-gallon water tank in downtown Minden. Do I have a motion for this, please?
So move.
Motion made by Councilman Michael Roy,
Second.
seconded by Councilwoman Tarika Walker Williams. Is there any discussions or questions from the council? There being none, cast your vote, please. Motion passes unanimously. If you'll flip to item K, it's authority to advertise for bids for 2 return-activated sludge screw pump parts. Do I have a motion from the council?
So move.
Motion made by Councilman Wayne Edwards,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Vincent Bradford.
We both did it.
Are there any discussions or concerns from the council? There being none, cast your vote, please. Mr. Roy?
Oh, I'm sorry, I pushed it, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Roy. Motion passes unanimously. Item L, the Budget Financial Report for January 2022. Mr. Fleur, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. As proposed under the guidelines from the legislative auditor, you received today a budget report for the month of January for your review. The report provides an overview of all revenues and expenses for all major funds. If you're going to look on the last page under the summary, you're going to see the variances in the individual funds. As far as I can see, without going into detail, general fund and water and electric fund are looking good. If you're going to look into the individual departments on expenses, as well as on the revenue side, we are on budget, in the budget where we should be, somewhere around 30 to 32%. So you can, and I'm sure if you're going to go through the individual line items, you will going to find probably some questions to specific line items, which will need to be researched then a little bit deeper, as we can do right now. Major figures and financial information for the reporting months. Cash in the bank in form of actual cash, CDs, or investments without the money from the American Rescue Plan is 18.5 million, compared to previous year 18.9 million. The overall total cash on hand, CDs or investments is about 20.7 million. Another important factor in the finances for the city of Minden is the sales tax. Sales tax commission reported collection for the month of January in the amount of $550,100. $550,100, an increase of 10.98% compared to last year. The trend continues that we above last year's figures for whatever reason, but it should be mentioned also that last year's figure did not include payments from several taxpayers whose payments were delayed in the mail and were not processed until March. So the figure itself from last year is probably a little bit higher. But overall, it was an increase in the collection. What's also notable is that the collection of $550,100 barely exceeded the expected amount of $550,000. That's what we have budgeted every month. But overall, for the first 4 months, the city is still with $200,000 over budget. 2.4 million collected, 2.2 million in the budget. We heard in the last month's report that the auditors were here in the house. They have meanwhile completed their field operation, and we are waiting on the exit conference and the respective findings. The normal procedure is they're going to send us a list. Look what we found. We're going to look at. We have the opportunity to respond, make corrections before they're going to finalize their report.
Michael, I have a question about the audit.
Yes, sir.
They're aware of the findings from Jameson Wise Martin?
Yes, they should be, yes.
Okay. And as far as you know, did we address those issues so far?
I would say yes, because we had to, every audit, we have to respond to the findings which been sent from the auditor to the legislative auditor, and we have to make a report from the management, which needs to go along.
Right.
But they had the last year's audit, so in the back of the booklet are the findings and our response.
Okay.
At last month's financial report, I believe a question was raised why the collection of the property tax was low at that point. Maybe I didn't hear that, but I think there was a question that the collection of the property tax at that time was fairly low. The answer to that is the collection, first of all, is done by the sheriff's office, and the money is transferred from their accounts to ours. We have no influence when they're going to collect, how they collect, and so on. And the collection period is starting on December the 31st and goes to April, including penalties. So at the beginning of the tax collection season, it's a slow start, actually, because everybody is busy with Christmas and New Year's, and then the payments are coming. The city received at the end of January approximately $405,000 on property tax. And at the end of February, I looked up the February figure, we are at $446,000 out of expected $492,000. So we are almost close to the final number.
Say that one more time, because the budget shows 475.
Yeah, but you have to add the downtown development district with 17,000.
Right. So what was the collection as of?
The collection as of the end of January in your report should be 405,000, roughly.
Between the two?
Between the two. The downtown development is just an add-on tax. And at the end of February, collected is $446,000.
Total?
Between both, yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Another point is worth to mention is the occupational license fees. I would like to remind the business owners that meanwhile you are considered be delinquent, and penalties will be added to your occupational license. So please get your occupational license and avoid penalties down the road. Penalties started at March the 1st. As recorded, and I looked again in February, the February figures, I'm ahead already, the February figure, approximately 2/3 of the expected license fees, or roughly $181,000, been collected so far. Normally, occupational license without the insurance premium tax is somewhere around $290,000 to $300,000. The council approved tonight in previous action amendments for certain projects. I believe we will see a few more amendments during the year as a result of the cost increases for materials and labor. The best example you will hear later on, I believe, is awarding of the bid for the truck. We ask for bids from the local car dealers as well as regional car dealers. And there we see that the truck budgeted is $10,000 too low. So from the 45 to the 56, we are too low in the budget. Or with other words, yes, it's $11,000 higher than the budget amount. But the good news, and I believe it is good news, the purchase of power for the first 4 months in the amount of $4.212 million is approximately only $132,000 above budget. So at the moment, I don't see any necessity to make any changes there. But we are going pretty soon in into the hot season, and then we see what that number is doing. These are all the information I have tonight. If you have any questions, go ahead.
Any questions or concerns to Mr. Fleur?
So have you and the mayor talked at all about having a workshop to discuss the American Rescue Funds?
The American Rescue Fund, not in a workshop. We have discussed the American Rescue Fund, and basically the items or the budget amendments you see tonight reflect what's going to happen with that money. The money basically will be used for the projects listed in the amendments, or that's the idea, to use it.
I would like for the council and the mayor and you to sit down overall and discuss that, because that money was originally designed to be used for something different.
That is correct.
And I think that we as a council and mayor need to sit down and relook at those numbers before we just arbitrarily start spending that money. I understand some things may be short, but, you know, I think it needs to be discussed.
Mr. Roy, did you read that document that I sent you, what it could be spent on?
I tried, some of it was front, backwards, upside down, so I was gonna get a copy that I could, actually, that's already printed out and go through it, because, you know, I just think that the people need to know what that money is truly being spent on, because we had originally said this is what it was gonna be for, and now that it's changing, it's not fair that they don't know that information, you know, and I think some of the council may have some input also.
When you read that document, you could see it couldn't be spent on road overlays. It could only be spent on water and sewer projects.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of,
The problematic at the beginning was if you want to use that money for a revenue loss, and that was the original discussion. If you're
to pay back the money
the revenue loss because of $2.1 million in addition to the regular monthly cost for the electricity.
Right.
At that time, it was very difficult to prove a revenue loss. Then the final document came out, and the federal government said, well, you can do two things. You can do up to $10 million without any proof, so to speak, but you have to prove where you used the money for. And they opened up and widened the perspective if you want to use it for water and water projects and wastewater projects. So the discussion came on that these projects we have there been covered by the American Rescue Plan money. That it was the idea. I agree with you that it should be laid out on the table what we're going to use that money for. It will definitely benefit the residents where it is used.
right.
But you can have different opinions what is
Well, I mean, I understand that the federal government says this is the way it has to be used, and I don't have a problem with that. But if we're changing what we told the people, they have the right to know that, and we've not told them that. You know, that's my problem. You know, just like it goes back to the water bill, where we arbitrarily went up, 5.6% based off an ordinance that was tied to the CPI. I don't think that's fair to the citizens of Minden. If we needed to go up, we should have brought documentation to them and showed them why it needed to go up and then voted on it, not just make an ordinance that arbitrarily goes up when the CPI does. we need to be clear and forthcoming to the people of Minden.
You know, that, like I said earlier, the previous administration voted that in.
That's right.
And the council workshop that you missed last week, we talked about the American Relief Fund and what these projects were being funded in.
I'm good.
Any other questions?
We talked about that, but we did not discuss that none of it would go towards the utilities or to pay back what was initially said.
You're correct. You're correct on that.
And just want to make one statement, Mr. Roy. I cannot call in a workshop.
I know that. I'm just asking
no,
openly if you know,
I agree
and I can go to the mayor and ask that. I just thought about it, and so I posed the question.
I fully understand your argument. I agree with you that it should be laid out on the table what it's going to be used for, because it's not only this time in a year we see the same amount again.
Right.
So by that time, I hope we have cleared all water, so to speak.
Any more questions or concerns of Mr. Fleur? There being none. Thank you, Mr. Fleur. Chief Cropper.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Okay, for the month of January, we collected $4,954 in city fines, $150 to the crime lab, $202.50 to city court, $180 to the marshal's office, $255 to the indigent defender's office, $12 to the clerk's fund, $45 to the Ware Center, $6 to the Louisiana Commission on Law Enforcement, $75 to the off-duty witness fees, $18 to the Court Case Management Information System, $15 to the Louisiana Traumatic Head and Spinal Cord Injury Trust Fund, $60 to the Judicial Building Fund, $1.50 to the Judicial Education Fund, totaling $5,974.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Go ahead. Did
I
you
move
make
to
it?
accept the police report for January 2022 as presented.
Motion made by Councilman Michael Roy,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Wayne Edwards. Is there any discussions or questions of the chief? There being none, cast your vote, please. Motion passes unanimously. Ready for your oral report?
Okay, the month of February, the Minden Police Department, actually accidents were down a little bit, but we did work 22 traffic accidents, but we had one major fatality with two very, very serious injuries here just not long ago there on Homer Road. Calls for service, we received 776 calls for service. District A, we had 124, in District B, 144, District C had 72, District D had 46, District E had 94, and then we had 4 out of jurisdiction which were prisoner transports.
What was District C?
C was 72. Total incidents where a report was generated for February was 102. District A had 32, District B had 31, District C had 4, District D had 10, District E had 22, out of jurisdiction was 1, and unknown was 2, and these numbers do not reflect traffic citations or stops. Total arrest for the month of February was 43. District A had 6, District B had 22, District C had 5, District D had 1, District E had 5, 2 were unknown, 2 were out of jurisdiction, and District B's numbers are inflated due to warrant arrests that take place at the Minden Police Department, where we put someone in on a bench warrant. 48 total warrants were issued and 28 warrants were served. And that's all I have.
Do we have any questions or discussion for the chief?
I do, it's not about this, but, so we've had a couple of events that, or incidents that I'm concerned about as an African-American female. One was the incident where a female was followed by a reserve.
Well, with all due respect, I mean, I don't mind talking to you with
Okay.
about it, but I would rather do it in private.
Okay, that's fine,
instead
we
of
can.
Public forum.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions or concerns to the chief? There being none, thank you, chief. Item N is to award bid number 072022 one-ton crew cab chassis 4x4 flatbed pickup truck. Do I have a motion on that?
I move to award bid number 07022, one-ton crew cab chassis 4x4 flatbed pickup truck to the lowest bidder, meeting all qualifications.
Motion made by Councilman Wayne Edwards,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Vincent Bradford. Are there any questions or concerns?
Well, I noticed that this truck has a 12 to 15-week lead time, and should that change, could we secure a truck from another location if it exceeds 15 weeks?
Certainly, we can go back, but they're just not available out there. This one's going to be a special order.
I understand that.
Yes, sir. But yes, sir, we can do that.
Okay.
And how much was in the budget for this?
Not enough.
45,000.
And they bid at 56.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any more questions or concerns? There being none, cast your vote, please. Motion passes unanimously. Do we have any announcements from the audience? There being no announcements, whoa, yes, sir? If you'll come up and give us your name and your address, please, sir.
Michael Douglas, 304 Susan Circle.
Yes, sir.
I was listening to Mr. Roy and Mr. Frew about these electrical bills. I'm
About the
trying
what
to
now?
figure out about the electricity, the
Yes,
electrical
sir.
bills. I'm 58 years old, been staying here all my life. I ain't never had no $700 light bill. All of a sudden, bills just started going up and up and up, and be honest with you, ain't nobody at my house. It's just two people at my house. And I'm trying to figure this out. You go from 400 to 500. Last month it was $560, now it went from $560 to $700. I'm trying to figure this out, and ain't nobody at my house half the time. You said shop in the first, how can you shop anywhere, got to pay these bills? That's my point I'm trying to make.
I appreciate your concern and I appreciate your question. If you'll come by my office and bring your utility bill.
I got it in my pocket.
Well,
It's in my pocket.
I do have a question for you. Do you have central air and heat?
Yes, so did everybody else, but I mean, I go to several different people's house, they like me $200 or $300. They got sheds, they running the central air and heat in 4 or 5 bedrooms in their house and kids in their house.
I've got another question now. Is your central air and heat, is it gas or is it electric?
Electric stays on 75.
It's an electric?
Yeah.
Your bill, well, that's why your utility bill's so high.
Up from 700 when, because last month, we was gone for a week and a half in Atlanta, wasn't nobody at the house, turned
Yes, sir.
everything off.
I understand, but electric heat, I own a house that's 1,200 square feet that the bill was over $650.
Okay, if the bill's been $400-some for months and months and months and months, and then now all of a sudden we ain't at home, it go up to $700?
Yes, sir, I would still,
And we ain't nobody there?
again, I'd invite you to come by my office, and our IT department can look at your utility bill and see when it starts spiking, to see when the utility's being used.
And then I'm looking at like, we just got all these brand-new meters here. Don't nobody come out and read meters no more to read it from in there. How I know something, you ain't got a power surge or something happening there?
Yes, sir, I would like to invite you to come by my office and bring your light bill so we can sit down and see when your utility usage is being used. Thank you. We're going to go to council comments, and we're going to start with District A.
No comment.
No comment. District B.
No comment.
City Attorney Jimbo Yoakum.
Just get out and enjoy the nice weather, spring's coming.
Councilman,
No comment.
no comment. Councilman Michael Roy.
I believe April the 2nd, we're doing a flyover event at the Minden Airport with.
That's correct.
In conjunction with a car show, if I'm not mistaken.
There's not a car show, but there's going to be antique cars out
Yes,
there.
yes.
Yes, sir, you're correct.
So y'all be sure to go out and visit that. That's going to be a neat thing. You know, I know utilities is not a popular subject, and one of our biggest problems that, you know, has been pointed out is that we're in a contract that we cannot get out of. Then we had the ice storm, you know, and so I know the mayor has been working on different avenues for when we get ready to recontract. So all I can ask, you know, is for the folks to be patient. You know, it was a bad contract that was signed some time ago. Like I said, not a lot that we can do, but just be mindful of that. And if you do have what you think is a usage problem, like the mayor has expressed, come up, because there could be a problem, you know, and he can explain to you guys how everything is figured, and I think you'll have a little bit better understanding. And so, you know, please come up and visit with the mayor on that. That's all I got, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman?
Yes. First thing is congratulations to St. Jude for their $2.4 million that they raised in the weekend, first weekend, second weekend of February. Everyone who participated, who donated, who had any part of the auction, I take my hat off to you and say thank you, because once again, it put Minden in its very best light. I also want to thank the council for voting for the street improvements for Country Club Circle from Drake Drive to Homer Road. It's been long overdue, and the residents out there have reminded me time and time again that they've been waiting for these street improvements, so that's coming. And then finally, I want to commend a group of folks that were in this council chamber a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and it was representatives from Main Street, the Greater Minden Chamber, the Webster Tourism, the mayor, and our brand-new local cheerleaders, Rachel and Sarah. And they addressed the hotel owners, restaurant owners, store owners, all about what's going to happen after HGTV airs its segment in Minden. And so the purpose was basically just to tell everybody what to expect, get ready, make preparations so that everyone can benefit from what's going to happen from this really wonderful opportunity that's been afforded to Minden. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I'm going to expand just for a second and echo kind of some of the things that Councilman Roy said about the light bill. We're making every effort we can to make our citizens have a lower utility bill. We have $1.2 million in our budget. I'm sure some of y'all have been out by the old power plant, Babs Park. You can see where the land's been cleared. We're putting a solar plant out there. We can do a kilowatt behind the meter, which it depends on your light bill, whether it's going to affect you at $18 a month or $25 a month. So that's going to help some. The contract does not come up for renewal for about another 6 years. In about 2.5 years, I'll start a task force to start looking at these utility bills along with our city council. And we were going to look at a contract that is going to benefit our citizens here in Minden and reduce our light bills. Under no circumstances, and I think the council will agree with me 100%, under no circumstances are we going to enter into a 20-year contract. The 20-year contract is ridiculous. No more than 10 is what I say. But we will not enter into a 20-year contract. So just know, if you have electric heat in your house and it's on central air, your utility bill last month was extremely high because of all the coldness. You know, some people have total electric houses, and that's gonna affect your light bill. Other things that I want to talk about are boots on the Boulevard. I've got some applications right here for boots on the Boulevard. This is a project with the state of Louisiana that we're promoting to beautify our city and do things in Jacqueline Park and Depot Hill. Our budget and our goal to reach out of sponsorships and donations, $14,000. We're over halfway there, and it's not even time for all the applications and sponsorships to be in. But we're going to do some beautification, some second-generation tree plantings, a welcome sign. We're going to re-roof the gazebo, and we're going to put in a area, 10 by 10 area with inverted, where you put bricks in memory or in honor of. So if you need an application, would like to be a sponsor, I have them here. Everybody's concerned about Shepherd Street. Shepherd Street, you know, we had a cave-in, we had a sewer line collapse that was 75 years old. We would have been overlaid today, but they were not making hot mix today. As most of you know, it's 90% rain tomorrow, so it probably won't be tomorrow. So as soon as we can get that overlaid and get the road opened back up, I just want everybody to know that. I know it's an inconvenience, but be cautious when you go through that area, because you don't need to go through around the roadblocks, because you're going to fall in a big hole. Just FYI. I want to remind everybody that March the 13th is daylight savings, so everybody needs to spring forward, because sometimes we forget that and then we're all late for church. So I want you to remember that. Also, this towards the end of the week, we're going to have an extreme cold snap. So if you're avid gardeners and you already jumped out there and planted bedding plants and things like that, you know, cover those up. If you've got a pet, bring them in the house, because if you're cold, they're cold, so bring them in as well. I would also like to acknowledge this good-looking group of young seniors out here. They're from our Greater Minden Chamber of Commerce Leadership Program. This is a program that I'm quite proud of, and I've taught this program for 16 years. And every year, I tell myself, this is the best of the best. But these guys out here, they're sharp, they're on their toes, and they really enjoy the class. I really enjoy teaching it, and I'd like to acknowledge, wave your hand, Jana. Jana is our Chamber of Commerce president, and so if any of y'all see these guys on the street, congratulate them. We've got them from Glenbrook, we've got them from Minden High, and these are our future leaders. And with that, I'd like to say meeting adjourned, and y'all have a good evening.